Jim?
Well, later this week, Democratic Senator Bob Menendez will be in court on bribery charges. Today, though, he made his first public comments in the face of that federal indictment. In short, he said he is staying put, he says, despite growing calls for him to resign, including from members of his own party in the state of New Jersey and Congress as well. He also responded to the most salacious piece of evidence in that indictment, the stacks of cash found in his home.
For 30 years, I have withdrawn thousands of dollars in cash from my personal savings account, which I have kept for emergencies and because of the history of my family facing confiscation in Cuba. Now, this may seem old-fashioned, but these were monies drawn from my personal savings account based on the income that I have lawfully derived over those 30 years. I look forward to addressing other issues at trial.
CNN's Kara Scannell, she was at that briefing. So that's how he explained the cash. Did he explain the gold bars or the Mercedes convertible?
No, Jim, he did not explain the gold bars or the Mercedes convertible or address some of the other allegations in this indictment. But, you know, he did try to say that some of his actions, the allegation is that he had received all of this cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to aid through 3 New Jersey businessmen and also to aid the government of Egypt. Now, he did address the issue of Egypt, saying that his record on Capitol Hill has been one to try to hold Egypt accountable, not doing things that would aid them, saying he was holding the line. I'm giving them military aid. So he's trying to draw a distinction between these allegations and what his public record is. But certainly that is going to be a fight that he will have in court. And he made clear today that he is not going anywhere, that he's not backing down, and saying that this will be the biggest fight that he's had to face, despite already facing corruption charges in 2015, but ultimately surviving them politically and both legally. So Menendez saying that he's not going anywhere. Here's more of what he said.
I understand how deeply concerning this can be. However, the allegations leveled against me are just that, allegations. I recognize this will be the biggest fight yet, but as I have stated throughout this whole process, I firmly believe that when all the facts are presented, not only will I be exonerated, but I still will be the New Jersey's senior senator.
And as you heard, he's saying that he believes he will be the senior senator when all this is over and that he is not stepping down despite facing these serious allegations. And Jim, you know, the big question here is he's up for re-election next year. Is he going to run? But Menendez would not answer that question when numerous reporters shouted it to him as he was leaving that briefing.
So what's the timeline then for his various appearances and upcoming trial?
So Menendez, his wife, and those 3 New Jersey businessmen are due in court on Wednesday, where they will face charges and go before a judge. And that'll be potentially the first time that he will be asked to enter a plea in this case. And it seems pretty clear he's going to enter a plea of not guilty. You know, from there, the way that this plays out with all these cases is it will go through this process, the legal process, and it will be months and, you know, perhaps a year before we have a trial date if he does continue to fight this. This trial will be overlapping with any potential re-election campaign if he also goes to move forward with that route too, Jim.
It'll be quite a story to watch. Kara Scannell on top of it as always. Thanks so much. Brianna.
All right, let's talk about this now with Jamil Jaffer. He is a former counsel to the Assistant Attorney General for National Security. Also, and I think very pertinent to this conversation, you worked for Senator Corker when he was on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and when Bob Menendez was the chairman of the committee then during his prior indictment troubles. This particular indictment details a meeting where Senator Menendez met with Egyptian military officials in his official Senate office with only his then-girlfriend, now his wife, and an Egyptian-American businessman, Will Hanna, who is also under indictment here. No Senate staffers. The indictment alleges the meeting included discussions of foreign military financing to Egypt. Why is that problematic?
Well, it's unusual, I think, certainly, that a senator would meet with foreign government officials, without any staff present, without members of, sometimes they'll bring in State Department if they want to have the U.S. government's view of it. But it's unusual. And given what they said was discussed, right, given what they believe was discussed and given the alleged payments, right, and the fact that Senator Menendez may have been taking official action. These are, again, allegations. Senator Menendez correctly points out he's innocent until proven guilty. The government has the burden of the proof here. But if it's as they say it is, which is that he was there, he had made promises to do certain things, that this meeting was about the things they wanted him to do, and he or his now wife were getting paid for it, that's obviously hugely problematic and inappropriate use of his office if the government can prove that.
He also allegedly texted his then girlfriend, now wife, also under indictment, non-public sensitive information about embassy staffing at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo, information that he obtained himself. He didn't have a staffer get this for him, which was then relayed to an Egyptian official. What do you see going on here? Can he hide behind, I was just doing my job, as we see him trying to do?
Well, look, I think that there are a lot of legitimate reasons why a member of Congress might ask for staffing levels at an embassy. They might want to understand spend. They might want to understand whether the appropriate staffing levels are there, the right amount of security and the like. Obviously, we saw what happened in Libya back in the day. That might be a good reason why a senator would ask. But if he's taking that information, passing it on to his wife, who has no legitimate need for that information, and knowing, or if she was intentionally going to pass it on to an Egyptian government official, the question is, why would they want it? What are they trying to find out, right? They may want to understand what are the security levels, who can they exploit, right? Who can they target for intelligence collection? The numbers alone may not be enough, but the numbers, who those staffers are, what jobs they have, right? They might be trying to assess, are there intelligence officials present that we're not aware of, right? These are all things that a government might want to know about the embassy, right, that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you had access to that kind of information.
That particular detail is one of the most serious things, I think, in this indictment. At what point does this rise to the seriousness of he's actually working outside of the interests of the U.S.? I don't know if you would call it. Would you call it spying? I mean, at what point does it get to a level of something like that? Well,
sharing sensitive, non-public information isn't necessarily sort of spying in the sense of like giving classified information, right? But it is sharing information that you have in your official capacity that you're not supposed to share with others. Now, he could argue, I didn't know it was sensitive. I didn't, it's just a number of personnel, right? That's that. But then the question is, why did you ask your staff to get it, right? Why was it sort of behind closed doors? Why were the text messages deleted, right?
Why did he seek it out?
Why did you seek it out? Exactly. That's right. And so all these questions will come up, right? Now, Senator Menendez has legitimate reasons for could argue he has legitimate reasons for doing all the things he did, approving the transactions, helping push them through. Remember, at the time, Egypt is a strong, and still is today, an ally of the United States. We have provided them historically a significant amount of military financing and aid. That's not surprising. The question is, why was he doing it at the time, and was he or somebody around him getting paid to do this? If that's the case, the government can prove that. That is hugely problematic, and it's going to be a significant problem for Senator Menendez.
These charges being brought by a Biden-appointed U.S. attorney, we should be very clear about that. We're hearing Republicans still talking about this two-tier justice system, which is a talking point that they have held to when it comes to Hunter Biden, even in the face of this indictment, and now the Hunter Biden indictment. What are you seeing? Well, just fact-check that talking point for us.
Well, look, I mean, obviously they're going after Hunter Biden, the president's son, right? He's been indicted in federal court. They're going after a sitting senior Democratic U.S. senator. It's been in office a long time, a senior member of the party. At the same time, right, there are a lot of Republicans who feel, look, you're still after a Republican president, right, a former Republican president, during a time when the current president is running for re-election, and that former president is running for re-election, right? If Joe Biden weren't running for office, it might be a different story. He has chosen to run for office. Donald Trump has chosen to run for office. That's part of what I think makes this challenging. It makes it hard for the Justice Department to say we're separate, we're apart, even though that may be the case. It's easy to look at it and say, man, this doesn't look good, right? And so I think you're going to hear Republicans continue to say that, even though Hunter Biden has been charged. And again, to be fair, the charges aren't that aggressive, right? There's a lot more that people might want to be brought against Hunter Biden.
There could still be.
Could still be, right? We don't know, right? But at least thus far, we haven't seen significant charges about Burisma and the like being brought.
But there likely could be. So
and we don't know if there may not be the evidence to support that. We don't know what investigation the government's done or hasn't done, what evidence they have or don't have. But I think Republicans will continue to be concerned about the pursuit of Republicans and specifically Donald Trump, right? But at the end of the day, the question is, did Donald Trump do the things they allege he did, right? Did he have classified documents in an unauthorized manner? Did he store them inappropriately, right? If he did, he's still guilty of violation of the law. You can't let the fact that he's running for office or is a former president or the president's running for office stop the Justice Department from doing its job as well.
Jamil, always great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Graham.
Jim?